Good morning. Welcome to EduSet Network. Friend, this week we have organized series of lecture on social work, and particular topic is management of development organizations. We organized 3 lectures on this very topic. We will try to understand different dimensions of development organization. And we have different name of development, like somebody call it voluntary organization, someone say NGO, non-government organization. So we'll try to understand the meaning of NGO, its formation, how it functions in 3 lectures, and even the funding of NGO, where one can seek the fund. So different aspects we'll try to understand how, and if one want to form his own NGO, what are the procedure and how one they can form. So our main focus is to understand the starting from formation to the management of this development organization. And for discussion on this very topic, we have in the studio Dr. Sanjay Bhatt. He is professor of social work in Delhi University, and he has been instrumental in helping others, many people, for forming the organization, NGO, non-government organization. And he is also a member of different social organization, and is an executive member of NGO forum on ADB, Asian Development Bank. So certainly his knowledge and experience will help us and guide us how to properly manage any development organization, and it will be also helpful for the students who are taking up the examination. So we'll try to understand theoretical and practical aspects. So on your behalf, I welcome Dr. Sanjay Bhatt for the EduSet lecture on this very topic. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Dear students and other viewers, in coming 3 days, we will be discussing the development organization. Why I call it development organization, I will come on later on, but popularly people called it NGO, non-governmental organization, and some other recognize it in the name of voluntary organization. So many of you must be aware that these organizations are existing in every society. Their nomenclature, their type, their form, their size changes with the time. As time grows, the name and other things changes well. So in India also we have a long history or long tradition of the charity, and helping others has been one of the major characteristic of a human being. Being philanthropic and helping the people is the one which is in the heart of everyone. So people do help others, the ways and means differs. And now as the science is growing, we have to see that how the NGOs are increasing. With this increasing NGOs and variability, we have to see that non-governmental organizations are to be managed by the people. They are organization of the people, by the people, for the people. So in fact they are the extension of our democratic spirit, that our democracy says democracy means by the people, for the people, of the people, and therefore NGOs by spirit are democratic in character, right? Now having said so, we will be tracing here the development organization. The development organizations are usually organizations which are engaged in various development activities related to health, education, welfare, or poverty reduction, or any other area of human concern for the betterment of people, working at local, national, or global level. So an NGO is right from the village to the national level. It can be at anywhere, it can operate at anywhere, and its issues can be also enormous, number of issues it can take up. So when we say development organization, it is in tune of the today's world, that which is engaged into the development activities, and it also address to secure economic and social change for the in favor of marginalized group. It ensures the human rights and social justice concern, and it is to be seen as a emerging part of a emerging civil society. When we say civil society, sometimes we use this word civil society very close to NGO, or sometimes as a synonym to the NGO, or sometimes as synonym to the development organization. But the civil society is a large term, is a bigger term, and civil society involves number of organized, unorganized, loose-ended, open-ended, all kind of initiative. So it involves panchayats, it involves trade union, it involves the voluntary association, even resident welfare association. They may be registered, they may not be registered. It involves the people's organization. So civil society is a large framework under which NGO is also one component. And when we say NGO or development organization, their size may also vary. It may be large as the corporate world today. Some of the NGOs in India are as large. They have the budget of more than 20 crores annually, or even more than that, 100 crores or so. And there can be an NGO with a small characteristic. It may be formal or it may be informal. It can be externally funded. I mean, any funding agency can be given funds to the NGOs. Normally people recognize NGO when it is being funded by the government or government department or an international organization, and they talk in that sense. But there are NGOs which are driven by their own members. They are funded by their own members, their own volunteers. So when we say the NGO, we should also learn to how this term NGO appeared on our scene. The term NGO came basically first time in 1945 because the UN, United Nations, want to differentiate in its charter the participation right of intergovernmental specialized agencies or those of international private organization. And after that, in India, somewhere in 1970 and 80s, it has become considered synonym to many other terms. Many other terms like these are the terms which non-governmental organization, it's non-profit organization, it's a voluntary organization, it's civil society organization, voluntary association, number of similar terms are being used for the development organization. But when we emphasize on the development organization, we intend that there is a journey which has moved from charity, from welfare, then development, and then empowerment and advocacy. Now, when I say charity, it's, if you look at 100 years back, there were many professional there were many religious organizations based on the religion, even some caste organizations. They were doing charity for the benefit of their own people, and sometimes in a limited zone, in a village itself. Sometimes they were doing this charity on the basis of the people, those who cannot manage there. So charity is a very common word. I mean, philanthropy, charity, if you look at the rich people used to help the people through various ways. I mean, the people, those who were handicapped, cannot earn, the people, those who have been left out, the poor people. Then you have seen the number of religious organizations coming up. All religions teaches helping others. All religions want to help the people. So charity has been the first stage where people have been helping through, and still it is continuing. You go to a Gurdwara, there is a free langar. You go to a mosque, there is the arrangement for the zakat and other beneficial, where the people contribute their income to a fund, and through that fund poor people are being funded. Or you go in any temple, and if you will see that most of the temples or most of the religious organization in India, some of the religious organizations are very vast, and they have a huge amount of money, and they run lot many welfare or charitable programs. So the charity is the first stage. Then came to the welfare stage where the government has accepted the idea of the welfare state. And when it says that we are committed to the welfare state, it moved and it says that all the marginalized people those who are in need, they will be taken care of by the government. So government has established institution, government has made the programs for the poor people, for the scheduled caste, for the scheduled tribe, for the women, for widow, for children, for destitute, large number of people. And that was a part of commitment to the concept of the welfare state. And being welfare, the government has also invited a public private, a voluntary sector, what we call, to participate and help to manage these welfare programs. So, since beginning, if you see in India in 1952, there is an organization being formed called Central Social Welfare Board, and the whole idea of this social welfare board was that in each state there will be state social welfare board, and through these state social welfare board the voluntary organizations, or what we call today NGOs or development organization, they will be held. So, the voluntary organizations are voluntary in character. They have been the voluntary in character because the people have voluntarily established them, and therefore, if we go to a definition of an NGO, we will see it that what a NGO means. NGO refer to any civil society organization which is not for profit. Not for profit means something closer to the charity, something closer to the welfare. You do not earn profit out of it, and principally it is independent of the government intervention, where the people, those who have organized, formed the NGO, they are free to do on their will. Therefore, NGO, earlier it is called voluntary organization. Voluntary word came from voluntas. Voluntas means will, my own desire, that I want to organize the people of the similar kind of thoughts and want to address the people. And as I have already told you that the purpose is public welfare. Right now, there is nobody knows that how many NGOs are working in India. There is a point of debate on that, because it is very easier to form NGO in India, but there is an organization called PRIA, Participatory Research in Asia. The PRIA has conducted a study probably 15 years back, and they have said that there are around 1.5 million NGOs working in India. Recently, one article, a research scholar has said that there are 3.3 million NGOs working in India. Now, it is similar, in US also there are somewhere 1.5 million, in Russia there were 3 lakhs NGO. So, all part of the world, in all human societies there are NGOs. Now, wherever these NGOs are, their characteristics are that they are non-profit, they are voluntary citizens group, they are independent of government, they can be organized at local level, national level or international level. These NGOs have a purpose, they have a task orientation, they are driven by people, by their common interest, they organize variety of services, they have a lot of humanitarian functions, and also they bring citizen concern to the government. Now, this is a new phenomena, this is a new work. One is that we are helping the people, but other is that we are helping the government in running their program, in formulating their policies, in monitoring their policies, in monitoring their program, like program of Manrega, which is at national level. So, there are NGOs which are monitoring these programs, whether Manrega is functioning well or not. So, this is another function. Then there is a advocacy, advocating the policies and program. Very recently you must have read that a NGO has filed a petition with the Supreme Court on the issue of a transgenders, that what is their gender, what are their specific. Then the government has formulated an expert committee, and expert committee made a research and gave the report to the government, and the government finally, to the court, and court finally recognized it. So, doing advocacy on behalf of the marginalized people is also a function of NGOs. Those who cannot voice themselves, you give a voice to them. So, NGOs are giving voice to the voiceless people, and this process of giving voice to the voiceless people in technical term we call it advocacy. Then NGOs also encourage people's participation in welfare programs, in charity, in advocacy, in empowerment, in all kind of thing. I mean everywhere. You must have seen that currently the Lok Sabha elections is going on, and many NGOs are working for requesting the people or motivating the people, encouraging them to cast their vote. So the voters awareness movement. 30 years ago when I started participating in voters awareness movement, it is used to be considered a useless area. But now Election Commission itself promoting those NGOs to take up the cause and participate and promote the fair and free elections, and also the people to cast their right and to cast their vote as a matter of their right. So these are the characteristics of NGO, that an NGO is. Now very interestingly I tell you that when I said independent of government intervention, there has been certain cases and very deliberate cases where the government has also formed the NGO, that we called in technical language GONGOs, government sponsored NGOs. Though of course, why these NGOs is considered better than the government by these government people? Because they have said that we have a specific people, we have a freedom to operate without the bureaucratic hurdles. So in literacy program in Haryana and in many other part of the country, there were many NGOs were formed, and the district magistrate and district education officer, they were the functionaries. The latest example is HIV/AIDS program in the country, NACO, National AIDS Control Organization, at national level. But at state level, it's called State AIDS Control Societies, which are registered NGOs under the Government Act. And the people, those who have registered it, are the government functionaries. So the government support, transfer the fund to these societies, and then these societies are free from, they get relaxation in working like any NGO. So there is another new aberration comes up, what we call is GONGOs. These are the characteristics of NGOs coming up. So I was talking of the stages, 4 stages: charity, welfare, development, and now advocacy and empowerment. In this slide, the word after welfare you can add the word development, because I just missed in typing. Empowerment and advocacy is the 4th stage of the development organizations where they are working. Now we will go how to register a organization and what is a legal status. There can be an NGO or a voluntary organization or a development organization without any legal status. I mean, you need not to have the legal structure. You need not to have to register yourself somewhere. It can be a voluntary association. It can still operate. So it can be either legally recognized or even without legal. But once it has to be legally created, then there are 3 laws, special laws in India. One, a NGO can be created under Societies Registration Act. This is a very old act, we will discuss it into the next lecture, but here just for your reference, the Societies Registration Act, we form a society, and the purpose of society may be same, working for the people, and it can be created by the people, but it is registered by the Registrar of Societies. There is another is called Public Trust Act. You can see it by the age 1882, I mean more than 100-year-old. Or maybe 140 years old, 80, 60. The Public Trust Act is where you can create a trust by putting some amount or money, and it can work on behalf of. Interestingly, we have a Companies Act. Everybody, you know that Companies Act are basically meant to make the company, and company is for a business bird, for profit. But in the Companies Act also there is a clause which is called Section 25. Under Section 25, after making a company, you can seek an exemption from the registrar of the companies that my company will work only for the welfare or only for the development. That means the company will operate on the lines of a Companies Act, but the profit earned by this company will not be distributed among its members. That will remain with the company itself, because the purpose is that you have been granted exemption under section 25. Now, these are the 3 laws through which the people form the voluntary organization. There are many other forms where people's organization are formed, like cooperative society, that we will not be included in this purview. So, these are the process where which we can go for the registration of NGOs. And now, if I come back to again that what a organization does, what kind of, how many type of activities they run. There are number of activities which are being run by voluntary organizations. It may be activities relating to the direct services, it may be relating to the giving the shelter, food, livelihood, poverty reduction, it can be helping the special groups. So, you will see that when a particular NGO perform a task, or its constituency or its members or its activities are linked with one special group, we start calling them with that suffix, that name, like disability organizations. That means these organizations, these NGOs or these development organizations are working for the disabled people. It may be for visually challenged, it may be for physically challenged. So we call it the disability organization. Child welfare organization, working for children. Environmental NGOs, working for the issues of environment, directly for protecting and promoting the environment. The health NGOs, working in the field of health, or we call public health NGOs. Similarly, we have a number of types. According to the orientation or type of work, we also classify the NGOs or development organization, like charitable organizations, those whose prime function is to work on the charitable model or to do the charity. We also call the welfare organizations. That means the welfare is the major issue. It may be welfare of the people, it may be welfare of the aged, it may be of welfare of the visually handicapped, it may be welfare of the physically handicapped, it may be welfare of the women, any constituency. But they are restricted to the welfare of that. So, we call it welfare organization. Some people are development organizations, that those who take the more than welfare. More simple language, if you can say, welfare plus social justice, or those who are working on the development issues or development indicators. Then similarly there are advocacy organizations, those who are doing advocacy. Now, some organizations are doing research. So, there are research organizations, research NGOs, those who are creating only the research brand. Now, some of the NGOs, if I start naming, you can put into these categories. Charitable organization may be any charitable organization like Indian Red Cross Society, or any foundation or any trust which is doing the charitable work. Bhurorka charitable works, however Bhurorka charitable works also work in the development issues. So, when we say that charity organization, to charity organizations whose prime function is to do the charity, largely religious organizations falls under this category. Similarly, welfare organizations, many government organizations, government has also created welfare institutions, and to manage those institutions we have some welfare organizations. So, you must have seen number of organizations, they put in their name Savitri Welfare Organization, Women Welfare Organization, or their names goes like that. Child Welfare Organization, Indian Council of Child Welfare, these are the organizations. Like some organizations which we are talking development organizations, when this came in 1780s, there was also a BABE where many technical persons are coming into that. Engineers and doctors, they were coming. You must have seen in Delhi, there is a CEC, Center for Environment Concern. There is a PRIA, Participatory Research in Asia. These are the organizations founded by the engineers. You must have heard the name of the Bankar Roy. SWRC, Social Work Research Center, Tilonia, the CECODICON, Center for Community Economics and Development Consultant Society, formed by the Sharad Joshi. And you go, number of the people though like that, they have come up and they have formed the organizations on the basis of during that period. The whole idea of that period, even very interestingly in 1975 when we have emergency, there were a large number of NGOs came during and after that period. They were also talking of the freedom, I mean they were talking against the emergency. So NGOs are not limited to the welfare, they are also limited to they are also working in the field of people's concern, civic response, government reaction. If government is not doing something in favor of the people, then even the NGOs come up. Then there are advocacy organizations, research organizations like Common Cause, founded by Mr. Sori, filed number of litigations. So the public interest litigation became one way through which NGOs were reaching to the court and pressurizing to the government to do certain kind of things. So that was the also role of the NGOs. Now this whole system of the NGOs getting prominence when the government has invited the NGOs to be the part of it. You will recall I told you in 1952 there was a central welfare board, right? And since then the NGOs were demanding with the government with a policy. So last the government has come out with a policy. This is called National Policy on Voluntary Sector. And the government has plainly, Planning Commission especially, has made a voluntary organization cell, and this has come out with a policy. In between this 1952 and 1987, where 1996, when this policy came, there was a major event happened, that's we called FCRA, Foreign Contribution Regulation Act 1976. During the emergency, the government has come out with a legislation to restrict and to check the foreign funding flow, that how the money is coming for the foreign countries, and this money is being used for the welfare and development purposes, not for others like internal security, disturbing the internal security or terrorist activities or any kind of activity which is against the peace and tranquility of the India, or which is what the national, against the national integrity. So they were trying to check, and this Foreign Funding Act came. After this Foreign Funding Act came, the movement became very stronger, which have demanded a policy by from the government. So later on government has come out with a national policy on voluntary sector. This policy has put up the major issues that it will create an environment where the voluntary initiative or non-governmental initiative or developmental initiatives will have an environment where they will prosper. That means government will remove those restrictions or those formal restrictions which comes in an operation of a voluntary organization, and that was government. And this policy is based on the mutual respect and trust, that government recognized that the space has to be created for the voluntary sector. And if you look at these when these organizations have gone through, you must have noticed that there were NGOs which were talking against the corruption, which were talking against the bureaucratic riddles, which were talking against the government apathy to take the action for civil work. So the idea of these civil society organizations or including NGOs came to sometime to support the government work, also to critically analyze it, and if possible and if required to challenge it. So they have also started researching. I will tell you that some of the very innovative work and path breaking work has been done by the NGOs in this country. When we say that budget analysis, they have started doing budget analysis. They started that how budget has been formed, what are the principles on which budget for one particular sector, say children, whether this budget is requisite enough for the children or not, whether this budget is required for the sufficient for the children or not, how it has been spent by the government, they have analyzed and put up before the government. So, the work which have been seen the antagonist to the government, there is a supportive also. There is a lot of supportive work to the government, like policies on right to education. The entire movement on right to education came from the civil society. If I have to name here, I cannot miss the creation of National Commission of Protection of Child Rights, NCPCR, and its state subsidiaries, the state commissions. This whole movement came after the Charter of the Child Rights, and the NGO sector have started building a movement and pressurizing the government to come out a separate organization in lieu of the charter signed by the government. So, NGOs were also these development organizations, not only implementing government programs, they were also helping to change the programs, to create the space, to bring out the space. Another very interesting and important movement which you can see, which can be contributed to the NGO sector or by the NGOs has been brought out, is right to information. The whole act of Right to Information Act came out from the movement which has been created by the NGOs, especially MKMS and other organization, MKSS and other organization in the country, who demanded transparency and accountability in the system. So, talking of the government democratic values or democratic spirit, the NGO says that government has to be the transparent and government has to be the accountable, and they have to share this information with the people. That is how Right to Information Act came. So, in last 30 years, if I say, lot many concrete results you can see. That is why the development organizations or NGOs are becoming talk of the town today. If I go further, the movement against corruption, which led creation of a new political party, many of you may be knowing. I will not go in detail of that politics of that, but this is also a result of a NGO movement created by the NGOs. So, what I was trying to convey you that development organizations or management or the non-governmental organizations are of huge importance today into the government system, in running to the government, or even the era which is coming as a part of what we called there are two reasons why this management of development organizations is coming up, is basically expansion of the market. I mean post new economic policies, and post new economic policies have hurt the sector also, and it has also given lot of space to come out. So, number of new things are coming up into the system. Like, if you have to understand the whole development organizational issues, it is because of the two major regions: shrinking of the welfare state, where the government is shrinking up, and on the other hand expanding the market economy. So, 1992 onwards, when we have started new economic policies, and now 92 to 22 years later, there is a lot many changes have come into the economic system, and that changes have also been watched, challenged, supported sometime researched by the voluntary organizations or NGOs or what you call development organizations. They have also done a large number of work on these issues. So, on one side, when we have opened, the new area is coming up, that is what we call public private partnership. However, public private partnership is already available in the field of social welfare or social development, in terms of that NGOs were the participant, I mean coming from the private side outside the government, and when we say public, the government partnership. So, what we earlier used to call GO-BO partnership, government and voluntary organization partnership, from where this policy on voluntary sector came up. Now, this policy is available onto the Planning Commission website and even on the website of the WANI, Voluntary Action Network of India. I just refer you, if you want to go in detail of the national policy on voluntary sector, you can download it from there. The increasing influence of the development sector or development organization is to be seen in these two spaces, which has created a lot of space for the voluntary sector. Now, shrinking welfare state means where the government has started withdrawing from its own primary responsibilities. That government finds that it is not able to support or to do it. So, they have withdrawn. Like after a lot of struggle, we are able to get RTE, right to education, because government was saying that we do not have funding to that. Many organizations came up. Now, during this period, there is another development is coming up, which has to be seen positively also, is that is what we call corporate social responsibility. This is the new area which in last few years have been opened for the development organization. Corporate social responsibility is a term which comes out where the corporate has to bear the social responsibility of that particular area or to the society from where they are making the production or where they are producing the goods. So, the whole idea is that any industry which is working in a one particular area is able to provide the employment to the people of that area, is responsible to the society nearby and other society also, because they are extracting the natural resources from that particular area. So, if that how to help that, how to respond back to the society while corporates are driving the profit. So, when with this 2% mandatory requirement, that 2% of their profit has to be diverted towards the social responsibilities issues, this is a new area for the development organizations to take on. And many corporate social responsibility organizations or many corporates have come out with the two model. One, that they themselves have started doing the development work by opening their own NGOs, trust or foundations, or sometime a non-profit company. But second model is that where most of the CSR organizations are helping to the NGOs, those who are already running or functioning in one particular area. So, according to their choice, someone has taken the education work, someone has taken the training of vocational education, somebody talking of vocational training, then other is talking of the health organization. So, large number of issues is coming up, which has been taken up by the corporate social responsibility or corporate social responsibility organizations. Now, here when I will put an end, because this is the background through under which we have to see that development organization is a reality and it cannot be undermined by any government, because this is the people's voice and people's choice. When people's voice comes through people's choice, that is why in beginning I said that development organization is by the people, for the people and of the people. So, they are organization created by the people, they are meant for themselves and they are being managed by them. In the subsequent lecture, we will talk how a NGO can be formed and how a NGO has to be operated or managed, and what are the legal restrictions, what are the social compulsions, what are the requirement which somebody will require. Because again I remind you, NGO is not a one which can be seen with the one see. There are small NGOs, there are medium NGOs, there are larger NGOs, but there are many people those who are willing to open their own NGO. So, we will, for their help, we will give you an orientation into the next coming lectures how to form an NGO and how to operate or how to run an NGO. Thank you very much.
Three acts you talked about. One is the Society Registration Act, the other is the Public Trust Act, and the other Companies Act. So, if an individual thinks to go for the public work, certainly he will chalk out what he has to do: charity to empowerment or advocacy. And then the things comes under which act he need to be registered his organizations. So, what is the guidance you would like to give? In which case one should go for the Society Act, and in which case they should go for the trust?
You know, these three legislation through which one can register a NGO, they have three different importance, and the process are also different. When we talk of a Societies Registration Act, the primarily it says that 7 members, any 7 persons can come forward, join hand together, can form a society. Now, I told you that this is all democratic. That means the responsibility is shared by these 7 people, and many other can join the society. So, this is most simplistic, where not many government restrictions or government. Contrary to this, in a Companies Act, of course, there is a provision of section 25, but the whole process is like a company. That means if somebody want to go to the Companies Act to register an NGO, he will make a company first. Like when I formed a company, I registered my NGO, it's called Pairvi Associates. Pairvi, you know in Urdu a word which means that advocating on behalf of the voiceless people. So it is a Urdu word which called पैरोकारी, and पैरवी means कि दूसरों के लिए वकालत करना. We have deliberately formed it as a non-profit company. Why? Because in Companies Act, you have complete transparency. You have to submit your annual report every year. You have to publish, you have to submit your balance sheet, you have to do everything as per company. So it is much open for scrutiny. Societies Registration Act also, you have to submit a report, you have to also form a balance sheet, but it is not that mandatory. Okay. Because Societies Registration Act and Registrar Societies Office are overburdened. I mean, in one private conversation, a official of Societies Registration Act, Registrar Societies told me that in Delhi there are 200 NGOs are registered every day. Now it has been decentralized at district level. So, I mean, people are forming NGOs, many of them are forming with the good intentions, but running an NGO is not as simple as it used to be earlier. There are too many things, there are legal compulsions also that we will discuss in. Trust is under the Trust Act, normally the people, those who have enough money, rich people, they used to donate their money to a particular trust, and they used to create a trust through which the activities are being governed on the funds created by the trust or funds received through donations and other. The most important funding pattern to all these kind of the organization is the public donation. And not only in India, even in European countries and even in other Asian countries, people donate the money, in some places more than 10% of their income to these organizations. In India, though not many studies are available, but few studies are available, especially by the Center for Philanthropy, and it says that people are, I mean, these NGOs are getting domestic fund not at that tune as we have. Because if you say that we have a 3 million NGOs, that means somewhere we have on 600 people we have a one NGO.
Right.
Right. So NGO, for some it has also become a fashion to have an NGO. But believe me that to running a organization, of course it is non-governmental, it is equally challenging. It is equally challenging because you have to manage the people, you have to have the PR, you have to have the budget, you have to the finance, you have to the income tax, you have to the taxation. There are too many things which are nowadays in operation. And I believe that one who want to run an NGO has to develop those skills to manage a organization or running a organization.
Okay. And in tomorrow lecture we'll try to understand how to open the
Right.
NGO. So well friends, today we conclude the lecture. I thank all of you for watching the lecture, and on behalf I thank Dr. Sanjay Bhatt for giving such a information about the NGO, how it evolved and how the role has been changing over the years. So I thank him for on your behalf. Thank you very much.